Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Elizabeth Warenberg. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you're new here. Today, we're talking about the helpful shift we can give ourselves when we talk about something as being more or less practiced rather than something that's easy or hard for us. Okay, so a lot of times when we're trying to change our behavior, or we want to have a new behavior, or we want to act differently, or think differently, or do something differently, we can get into this mindset of like, oh, it's so hard for me to change. This new behavior is so hard. It's so hard. I'm never going to learn this. I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to whatever, right? And this could be about anything. It could be about picking up a new skill, changing your language, changing a belief you have about yourself, how you interact with someone, your responses to something, building a new habit, anything. Okay, right? A lot of times the default is we say, this is so easy. This is so easy. This is so easy. Or this is so hard. This is so hard. This is so hard. And that's normal, right? We all do that. But when we do that, we can get in the space of like affirming to ourselves, this is really hard for me. This is really hard for me. And so we can kind of unconsciously and unintentionally make it harder for us than it is. It attaches this level of like, this extra level that, okay, learning this new thing and changing my behavior, whatever it is already harder than just this thing I'm already doing. So there's already some resistance there. There's already some, oh, I should give up. I can't do this. I can't whatever, right? And so it's important for us to remember and kind of think of and just get clear that like when we say it's hard, it's hard, it's hard, like that's not the most helpful language we can use for this. So what I like to say and what I encourage other people to say is looking at something as like more or less practiced. Okay, so this thing that seems easy to you, it's just easy because you've done it 800 million times, or it's the way you always did it from the beginning, right? So if something's easy for you, like a skill, it's because you've practiced it a certain amount of times, and or you learned it when you were younger, when we don't have as much resistance to learning something new. We don't have as much resistance to like looking or feeling stupid, or like we don't know what's going on. And so we either have the skill set from before, or we think something is easier because it's more practiced, because it's like maybe it's a habit we picked up in the house we grew up in the family situation we grew up in, right? So if like everyone in my family um like sat down and talked about our emotions and was very healthy in that way, okay, then obviously that's going to be an easier practiced thing for me because I already know how to do that. I don't have to teach myself. I don't have to, whatever. But if something is less practiced, that's when we think it's hard. Like if you're trying to switch your behavior completely, if you're trying to talk about something in a new way, be different, all of that, if you're trying to do any of this differently, then this comes from a place of like you just don't have the practice with it yet, and it's a less practice thing. So obviously if you've done something 10 million times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10 times, right, even just like removing the level of it being something brand new and something you've never done before, even if you just look at that versus 10 times versus one time, obviously the thing that you've done 10 times, at least you know how it goes, at least you know what to expect in general. Okay, it could be something that's different every time, right? But your body knows how it feels. You know what it's going to feel like when you do these certain ways, when you act this certain way, what the process is like, whatever. Maybe if you have body sensations that go along with it, right? So if something is brand new, if it's less practiced, then of course you're not going to feel familiar, you're not going to feel confident, you're not going to feel totally comfortable continuing to do that. And so it doesn't mean that the action you're choosing to do is wrong or it's the wrong thing for you. It just means it's less practiced. Okay. So when you immediately think about it like that, it takes off some of the perfectionism there of like, wow, this is so hard. I'm so bad at this. I can never, learn it, right? And the older we get, because we've been alive for longer and we get very good at some of these other things long term, it can be hard for us to just kind of think about like, okay, well, what can I do? We have to have beginner's mindset, right? Which is like, okay, if this is brand new for me, I have to be humble. I have to be willing to learn. I have to be willing to like not feel the most confident because, like I said, I've been alive for this many years and I know how to do all these things on autopilot that are not challenging, but if someone had never done them before, they might be challenging for them. And so it takes some of that pressure off of you to just say like, okay, I don't have to be perfect about this because this is my first time learning it, or I'm going in with an open mindset, or whatever, right? So it removes some of that perfectionism of just like, oh, this is hard for me because something's wrong with me, where it's like, no, this is just less practiced, and so nothing's wrong with me. I just have to learn how to do it, and I have to learn how to be able to hold that space for myself. I have to give myself the grace while I figure it out. I have to give myself the grace of like, this is just another skill I can master and something else I can learn and a new behavior I can practice, right? So thinking about it with that immediately removes perfectionism. And then it also takes the blame off of the self, and it takes some of the judgment off of the self, and it can leave space for you to then be like, okay, if this is just a less practiced thing for me, that feels way more neutral than like this is hard for me, right? If it's something being easy or hard for you, that puts all the onus on you. But if something is more or less practiced, then that just kind of has it be something that is just a thing that you have a relationship with, that you either, again, have a more practiced relationship with it or a less practiced relationship with it. And so when we think about it in this way, it can, once we, again, kind of, it just immediately removing that pressure. And if you say that, or even while listening to me, hopefully you can hear and feel the difference in your body and your bodily response to those things. And when you do that, again, it immediately removes some energy for you, clears some things out. Okay. But once you do that, then hopefully that can create the space for you to then be like, okay, since that is something that's less practiced, it's not a personal moral failure on my end. It's just something I have to get better at, right? And again, there can be this disconnect between, well, when I was a kid, everything was so easy for me and I just pick things up and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, kids can pick things up faster typically. And because they younger and more, agile and okay, all this stuff, more malleable in the brain. And also they don't have the built-in shame that we have as we become adults and get older and do all of this, right? Children are like, they fall down, they mess up, they usually don't really care. They just try again and keep going. Okay. And so when we're younger, it's easier for us to pick up these things. So that's another way you can kind of release some judgment on yourself of like, okay, stop trying to act like you're still, a child learning all these things, and just be like, okay, I'm an adult who's learning something new. So can I ease up on myself? Can I give myself grace? Can I look at this as something that's just less practice versus more practice? Again, hopefully that creates space for you to realize, okay, this isn't a personal moral failure. This is just something that I just have to do a certain amount of times until it feels comfortable, until I get better at it, and understanding I don't have to be a perfect at it along the way. Because again, I'm just practicing, right? Practice makes progress, right? Not practice makes perfect. Practice makes progress. So as you continue to do these things, it's going to add up, and it is going to shift the way that you are able to look at these things, and again, hopefully take some of that pressure off yourself and gives you a little bit more grace and compassion. So try it for yourself. If you're having struggle or difficulty with something, just instead of saying, oh, this is so hard for me, just say, okay, this is just something that's less practiced for me, and see if you can move into that a little bit with a little bit more kindness and grace, and trust that, you can make new neural pathways for yourself. You can make a new body habit. You can, choose this. It's just going to give yourself some grace and compassion as you continue to choose to be different with it. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.